Hello, this is Mrs. Ward, and I'm going to go over the review, the 6.4 additional practice worksheet. This, the first one starting with an absolute value. I'm going to do this one using the fundamental theorem of calculus, and then I'll show you the geometric way when I'm finished. So this one, it's an absolute value, so I want to find out where that vertex happens. So we set it equal to 0. When I do that, I get x is equal to 3. So graphically, what's happening is that 3 is where I have the vertex of that absolute value. So I'm going to have to find the interval from 1 until 3, and then I'm going to add it to the interval from 3 until 4, because I'm going to have two parts of this interval. When the function on this part of the function, the 3x minus 9 is going to equal 3x minus 9, and x is greater than or equal to 3. When x is less than 3, it's actually going to equal the opposite of that, because it was a negative number and I made it positive. So this will be negative 3x plus 9 when x is less than 3. So I'm going to find the antiderivative from 1 to 3 of negative 3x plus 9. I'm going to add that to the antiderivative of 3x minus 9 from 3 until 4. So when I take the antiderivative, I'm going to end up with negative 3x squared over 2 plus 9x. And I'm evaluating that from 1 to 3. Once I get that answer, I'm going to do the antiderivative of 3x squared over 2 minus 9x. And I'm doing that one from 3 to 4. And I picked this 3 because that's where the vertex is. Then I thought it'd be a good idea to show you how to use a calculator. I don't think we've ever talked about this in class, but it was part of your summer learning. We've used it for other things, so I'm just going to show you real quick. I'm only going to do it for the first one. So if I want to use a such then, I'm going to type in that equation. So the first one was negative 3x squared over 2 plus 9x. I'm going to type that in my calculator just the way I see it. So I'm going to create a fraction, 3x squared over 2, and then I'm doing plus 9x, and then I'm going to do the such that. To do such that, I'm going to hit Control and the equal sign, and I'm going to choose this line. The line is the such that. I want to do this such that x is equal to, and I'm going to pick the upper bound, which in this case is 3. And I'm going to get 27 halves. And now I'm going to hit, so this will now be 27 halves minus, and now I'm substituting in 1. And so since I don't want to have to redo all that, I'm going to go back to my calculator. I'm going to go up and grab that I just did, hit enter, back it up and put a 1 in there, and I'm going to have 15 halves. So then I'm going to put 15 halves here, and I'm going to subtract. I'm going to get 6, 12 halves, which is 6. And if I don't want to do any mental math, on your calculator, you can just grab that and go 27 halves minus the 15 halves, and you're going to get the 6. Then I'm going to do the second part, and the second part is basically the same equation. So I don't mess it up, I'm just going to retype it. So I'm going to hit Control Divide, and this time is 3x squared over 2. And now I'm doing minus 9x. And I want to do such that x is equal to 3. And then such that x is equal to 4. So I did it in the wrong order. I should do negative 12 minus, so I'm going to do negative 12, because that's the upper limit, minus the lower limit, and I'm going to get 3 halves. So this was 3 halves, and then I'm going to add these two, and I end up with 15 halves. Why did I not know that? That's how you use your calculator. If I want to do it with the triangles, here's the first triangle that I'm going to have. This is 1, and that one comes from here. So now I have this first triangle. The base of this triangle is 2. So 1 half the base is 2. And then the height of this triangle is when I put 1 in there. So 3 times 1 minus 9. That's the value. So 3 minus 9. So negative 3. So 3. So that would be 3. And now doing the second triangle. Plus 1 half my base, which is 1. And now when I put 4 here, I have 3 times 4 minus 9, which will be 12 minus 9, which is 3. 3 halves. So much bad math here. This height, 3, that's 3 minus 9, which is negative 6. This height is 6. So this is 6. Plus 3 halves. Okay. Alright, I messed that up. And that is no mistake. If you look here, this 6 and this 6 match up, and this 3 halves and this 3 halves match up. Because remember, this is the area underneath the curve from 1 until 3, which is what that triangle is. And this is the area underneath the curve from 3 until 4. That's why they match up like that. Moving on to the next one. I'm not going to do that anymore on the calculator. You're more than welcome to use the calculator. You do need to show me those like partial sums of those answers. The next one, I'm going to take the antiderivative. So this, here's a negative sign. X to the third divided by 3 minus 2x squared divided by 2 plus x. I'm evaluating from negative 1 to 2. I'm going to clean that up a little bit. And then minus x squared plus x, negative 1 to 2. When I substitute in 2, 2 to the third of 3 minus 2 plus 2, that ends up equaling negative 14 thirds. Then minus, when I substitute in negative 1, that ends up equaling negative 5 thirds. So that ends up equaling a negative 3, and that's my final answer. Moving on to the next one. The first thing I have to do is I have this and this, so I'm going to distribute that x to 1/3. When I distribute a number with an exponent, I add my exponent, so this will be negative 2x to the 7/3. Remember, I take 2, which is 6/3 plus 1/3 and 7/3, minus 8x to the 4/3. And then this is going to be minus 6. There is no x, so x is 1/3. And this is the proper notation for x. Now I can take the antiderivative. So I'm going to add 1 to that 7/3, which will now be 10/3. There's that negative 2. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, which will be 3 over 10. Minus, there's that 8x, add 1, that's 7/3. Multiply by the reciprocal, which will be 3/7. Minus 6, add 1, so that will be 4/3. Multiply by the reciprocal, which is 3/4. And I'm evaluating this from negative 4 to negative 1. When I simplify, the negative 2 and the 10 will simplify, so I'm left with negative 3/10 x to the 10/3. Minus nothing simplifies, 24/7 times x to the 7/3. Minus 9 halves x to the 4/3. Evaluating that from negative 4 to negative 1. The first thing I'm going to do is substitute in the negative 1. So when I do that, I'm going to have negative 3/5 and negative 1 10/3 power minus 24/7 and negative 1 to the 7/3 power minus 9 halves and negative 1 to the 4/3 power. And when I do all that, I ended up with a negative such that would be so much easier. 24/7 times -4 to the 7/3 power minus 9/2 times -4, 4/3 power. And when I do all that, it gave me a decimal, and I'm okay with that. 2.44913. I wrote all the decimals that I could see. When I did that on my calculator, I got 0.7770704. So that is my final answer. I would like to see at least 4 decimals rounded. Okay, this one, I'm just going to rewrite this. It looks a lot worse than it is. X to the 5/7 minus 2x squared, and I'm going to rewrite this as -4x to the -1/2 power. Now I'm going to take the antiderivative. So I'm adding 1 to the 5/7. So when I do that, that'll be 12/7 multiplying by the reciprocal, which is 7 to 12. Minus, add 1, so this will be x to the third. So there's that 2 that was there. So 2x to the third multiplied by the reciprocal or divided by 3. I'm probably just going to divide by 3. Minus, here's that 4x, adding 1, so that would be 1/2. And then multiplying by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/2 is going to be 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2 over 1. And we're evaluating this from 1 into 2. I need to clean this up because it's showing me out. So 7 12 x 12/7 minus 2/3 x to the third minus 8x to the 1/2. Evaluating from 1 into 2. The first thing I'm going to do is put in the 2. So I'm going to have 7/12 times 2 to the 12/7 minus 2/3 times 2 to the third minus 8 times 2 to the 1/2. When I do all that, it gives me a decimal, and the decimal is -14. I think that's a 7.9. And then now I'm going to substitute in V1. We agree that these will all be 1. I hope we agree that they'll all be 1. I'm going to end up with 7/12 minus 2/3 minus 8, because everything else will be 1. When I do all that, I get a -97/12. When I subtract, I get -6.6495. Okay, do number 5. Number 5, so I'm going to have 2. Add 1, so that'll be 7/5 multiplied by the reciprocal, which will be 5/7. If I want, evaluate from -6 to -1. So when I clean that up, I have 10/7 x to the 7/5. -6 to -1. So I am going to do 10/7 times -1 to the 7/5. Since this is a -1, I can't do the trick that I just did. I'm going to actually have to substitute in because I don't know whether it's going to be -1 or +1. So I do have to substitute in -1. And then minus, oh, should I tell you what I get when I did this one? When I do this one, I got -10/7. Minus, now I'm substituting in that -6, so 10/7 times -6 to the 7/5 power. And when I do that, I get a decimal. -17.5515, and when I subtract, which is really adding, I get 16.1229. Okay, moving on to the next one. Next one, really easy. Adding 1 to 2, I'm adding 1 to 1, which would be 2, multiplying by the reciprocal, which is going to multiply by 1/2. And evaluating this from -4 to 1. So I'm doing 1/2 x squared from -4 to 1. So I'm going to take 1/2 times 1 squared, which would just be 1/2. And then minus 1/2 times -4 squared. And so that will be 16, so minus 8, and my final answer is -15/2. Or if you give me a decimal, -7.5. And there's no more decimals, so that's all I'm going to write. Okay, moving on to the next one. Still following the same procedure. I have x squared add 1 to the squared, so that'll be a 3. So this will be x to the third over 2 multiplied by the reciprocal, so I'm going to multiply by 1/3. That's reciprocal 3 minus 3x, graduating this from -4 to 1. So this will be x to the third over 6 minus 3x, graduating from -4 to 1. So substituting in the 1, I'm going to have 1 to the third over 6 minus 3 times 1. When I do all that, I get -17, 6. Now I'm going to substitute in the -4, so I'm going to -4 to the third over 6 minus 3 times -4. And when I do all that, I get -4/3. So when I subtract, I get -25/6. In the next one, before I can do this, I have to, because it's a composite function, it's something squared, so I'm going to have to FOIL that first. So when I FOIL that, I'm going to 4x squared plus 24x plus 36. Now I'm going to take the antiderivative of that. I must square it first. If I don't square it first, I'm going to get it wrong. Alright, so here I have 4x to the third multiplied by the reciprocal or divided by 3 plus 24x squared divided by 2 plus 36x, evaluating from -6 to -3. I'm probably going to rewrite this as 4/3 x to the third plus 12x squared plus 36x from -6 to -3. So substituting in the -3 first. And when I do that, I get -36. Now I'm substituting in the -6, so and when I do that, so this is minus, and when I do that, I get -72, so it's going to be plus 72, and my final answer is going to be 36. Okay, moving on to number 9, it's telling me that f of x is equal to that. Oh, let's skip 9. I so did skip 9. Oopsie. Oh. Let's put 9 in there. So, the directions are that they give you f of x and they want you to find the derivative. So I'm finding f of x. So number 9 is f of x is equal to 2t minus 2 dt. So I'm going to take this x squared, substitute it in here, so 2 times x squared minus 2, and then I'm going to multiply that whole thing by the derivative of this x squared, which is 2x. So when I do all that, I'm going to have 4x to the third minus 2x. And that's it. That's my derivative. That's all I can do. So moving on to this one, I'm putting this 2x in here, so I'm going to 2x. X will be raised to the third power minus 2 times 2x squared minus 1 times this whole thing times the derivative of 2x minus 2. Derivative of 2x is 2. So when I do this, this will be 8x to the third minus 4. Ooh, no, 8x squared. So it's 2 squared is 4. 4x squared is 8. This will be 8x squared minus 1. Now I'm multiplying this whole thing by 2, and so my derivative is going to end up equaling 16x to the third minus 16x squared minus 2. Okay, the next one, for each find the average value of the function over a given interval. So you're basically doing the same thing. You're doing the antiderivative from -5 to -1 of this -x squared over 2 minus 4x minus 5 dx. But the only extra step is you're going to do the average, and you're going to divide it by the integral. So I'm going to take -1 minus -5. So this will end up being 1/4 because there's 4 spaces between -5 and -1. Then I'm doing this, so So this will be negative x third, that's over 2, multiplied by the 6, which is multiplied by 1/3, or divide by 3, however you want to fix that, minus 4x squared divided by 2, minus 5x, and I'm going to evaluate that from -5 to -1. This 1/4 I'm going to save to the very end. So 1/4, this will be negative x third over 6, minus 2x squared minus 5x, and we're evaluating that from -5 to -1. So when I'm saving that 1/4 to the very end, when I put in -1, when I put in -1, and so I can have this 1/4 again, I'm going to have 19/6. Now when I put in the -5, I'm going to have -25/6. So when I subtract, I'm going to subtract first. I'm going to have 22 over 3, so my final answer is going to be 11/6. And finally, the last one, I am going to do from 0 to 1 over 1 minus 0, so it's 1, so I'm not going to talk about anything, 2x to 1/2 dx. So now I'm going to have 1 over 1, and then this will be x to 3/2 to multiply by the 6 over 2 over 3, and I'm going to evaluate this from 0 to 1, this from red 1. And this will be 4x, 1/3 x and 3/2, 0 to 1. So when I put in 1, it's going to be 4/3. When I put in 0, that's going to be 0. So it's going to be 4/3. And that's it. I hope this helps. I'll see you next time in class.